Chris asks, is it best to use traditional IRA money to buy a new car, house renovation, big trips, etc., compared to using after-tax money if there is an abundance of both and the couple is in their early 80s?
Okay, well, first I'll answer that question. By the way, I'm an attorney, so an attorney can take any question and answer any other question. So let me rephrase the question, and let me rephrase it so it'll be helpful to the most people. What is the best order of accumulating money, and what is the best order of distributing money? Subject to exception, best way to accumulate money. Number one, anything that your employer is willing to match. Number two, health savings accounts where you get a deduction going in and it grows tax-free and distributions are tax-free, assuming you take it out for some type of qualifying medical use, which is usually interpreted pretty broadly. Then Roth IRAs, then traditional IRAs. So again, so really match HSA, Roth, IRA, then saving money in the after-tax environment, which you want to have some money for a rainy day. And then the exception to the exception. Oh no, I'm sorry. The exception to the exception is in the distribution stage. Now distribution stage. And by the way, it all goes back to don't pay taxes later except for the Roth. Remember, in the accumulation stage, we're doing match, Roth, IRA, then save after tax. In the distribution stage, in their 80s, they're presumably no longer working. They have IRA money, after tax dollars. Subject to exception, which by the way is one of the reasons why you want to run the numbers, you spend your after tax dollars first, usually money that you don't have a big capital gain. So let's say after tax dollars with low appreciation. Then after tax dollars that have a high appreciation because there's capital gains. Maybe for people in their 80s, it might make sense to hang on to that money to get the step up in basis and spend some of their IRA money. Generally, you're going to want to spend your Roth IRA dollars last because that is the money that you are most likely to leave your children. So for most people, I would say spend your after tax first, then your IRA, then your Roth. If you're in your 80s, it might make more sense to spend your after tax low basis, I'm sorry, after tax high basis, then IRAs, then highly appreciated, hoping, well, you don't hope for the step up in basis, but that's presumably what's going to happen, although I think that's going to go away at some point, and then spend your Roth last. And I think I mentioned before, my wife would eat rice and beans before she spends a nickel of our Roth, which is already well into seven figures and will likely end up being, closer to 3 or 4 million by the time we die. But that's not money that's on the table for us. That is to take care of our daughter that has a disability, who, by the way, will be able to stretch that inherited Roth IRA over her lifetime.
Thanks,
Okay.
Jim. Oh, do you want another
Yeah,
question?
one more. Go ahead.
Okay, Zvi asks, are there any inflation protected annuities available and are they good as a longevity insurance?
Well, the answer to that is yes. I am not so. I've looked at that. I'm more. You have to be really careful in the annuity world because a lot of these are very, very high commission items, of which I am not a big fan. So the deferred annuities are often very, very high commission that I'm not a big fan of. An immediate annuity is a simpler product where you give money to the insurance company, they return a certain amount of money per month every year for the rest of or you can get a two-life annuity for the rest of for your spouse's life. Then the question is, can you find an immediate annuity that is inflation protected? And The answer is yes. I'm not sure that that is necessarily the best thing, although, very frankly, that's exactly what my mother had. She was a college professor, and back in those days, they had mandatory retirement at age 70. She had a bunch of money in TI-CREF. She had to accept an annuity, and by then my dad was gone. So she got a certain amount of money every month, adjusted for inflation for the rest of her life. And she was one of those people, she didn't even think about money. She couldn't tell you to the nearest dollar how much money she had because she had an annuity from TI-CREF, she had Social Security, and I actually bought the house that I grew up in, paying her more or less fair market value. So she had payments for me. So she had plenty of money for her normal life, and she didn't even think about investments. And by the way, the answer of how much money she had, and measured in hundreds of thousands of dollars, it was one. So sometimes having an annuity, an inflation adjusted annuity, is even better. If you don't need the money now, and what you're really worried about is, let's say you're 65 years old and you do some analysis and you say, hey, I can comfortably live till age 85, but then what happens at age 85? You can get something called well, you have to be careful about the fees, but there's deferred annuities. But one of the things that you can get is you can get something called a QAC. And the advantage of that, you buy it with your IRA. So now that money that would normally be subject to minimum required distribution, there's no minimum required distribution. The way it works is, and again, this is an oversimplification, you're 65 years old, you put in, let's say, $100,000, and you don't get anything until you're 85. And if you die before age 85, you lose it. But let's say you make it to age 85, then you get $100,000 a year for the rest of your life. So that's literally longevity insurance. Hardly anybody does it, but a lot of people like it conceptually, including me, because that addresses one of the big fears, which is outliving your money. So again, long answer to a short question.